Hey, how you doing, guys? I'm Amos from TesseracT. I play bass, whatever. Everybody else isn't doing any of that, so.
What sort of bass do you play?
I've got well, I kind of use Warwick basses. Recently there was a couple of videos of me using the most amazing bass, which is it's actually a semi-hollow bass. It's called a Warwick Infinity, and it's beautiful. It's unfortunately about $10,000, but Warwick lent that to me for a little while, and I used it on some videos, and it was just fantastic. Sadly, I had to give it back, which sucked.
You should have done it.
I know the guy really well, so it was like, I know where you lived, bring it back.
That was a joke. I'm not promoting.
Everybody said exactly the same thing to me. Like, I should have stolen it. This happened
like
often.
A plastic one back.
Yeah.
How seriously do you take your instruments? Because you play incredibly technical music, so it must be quite important.
Yeah, it's technical from a detail point of view. It's not like how other people would imagine tech, you know, where there's lots of notes going on. It's more that there's a lot going on, but it's quite subtle. So everything has to be very highly detailed. You have to be able to hear the difference between me doing that and the difference between me doing that has to be very, very obvious in the sound. So it's like, especially with bass, there's a lot of things. You get to this point, and there's a load of basses that sound like this, and then there's this massive jump to the next level where you can hear everything that you do, and that's kind of that's really important to us. The expression is the massive key to everything we're doing.
I see. So how do you go about, when you're on tour, you have to maintain the quality of
Yeah, that's quite difficult, which is why I try to never take any basses on planes. I always try to source a bass in the country that I'm in. Like, for example, we're about to go to Australia. Now that's 3 flights to get there, and the guys at airports are just going to get my bass and do this. And doing that 3 times is just going to kill it. And obviously going up and down and the temperature change and
the wood is going to...
It's just going to destroy it. I went to India and we did, I think, 6 flights in a week, and ever since then the bass has been slightly different. So from then on, always try to speak to the manufacturer, always try to get a bass in the country that hasn't been through 100 flights already. Just hope and pray that, you know, when I have it, I'm not doing a week's worth of flights.
How do you find that the variation in instruments is around the world? So I'm assuming you play lots of different basses in that case.
Yeah, because they're all coming from the same guys essentially.
Oh, okay.
They're all coming from Germany, my basses. So they tend to be pretty much the same. They tend to be really consistent, which again is another reason. Whereas if you go to like a mass manufacturer, they're just going to be... You could get a really good one, but then you could get a really bad one. You know, which is why people, when they get like Fender guitars, for example, they go, I only want the Japanese ones from 1975. If it's not from then, I don't want them. You know, it's that sort of thing. It's a bit geeky.
That is not.
We're actually a really geeky band when it comes to tech,
Well, any other geek elements in your band apart from tech? Or?
Yeah, well, just the sort of things we're interested in.
You're called TesseracT, so I'm
yeah, exactly. That says it all, doesn't it? I mean, you say that word to most people and they go, and you say that to most of us, and we're like, we've read up about it and we know a lot about the idea behind it now, but it was originally a concept that came up in like the late Victorian times to theorize and practice imagining things that are not in our normal 3-dimensional world. It's a 4-dimensional object. Now when I say 4 dimensions, I don't mean space as space and time. I mean actually another dimension above this, you know, height, width, breadth, depth. It's the next one. So you've got that, you've got that, you've got that, and then it's another one which isn't possible in what we're doing. So it's actually a massive headfuck.
Yes.
There's a logo on the front of our album. I've got epilepsy, and it caused me to have a bit of a fit when I was designing it, because it kind of it messed with my head. It actually made me go for about 2 hours, and I was sat there with my girlfriend just going, what? just could not focus. So that was quite fun.
How do you deal with that when you're touring? Like, have you ever been ill on stage?
Yeah, fortunately I'm not too bad, so it's okay. Like when it's really hot on stage, we did a show in Glasgow and I actually spazzed out a little. And the video is quite amusing because I'm playing something different. I'm still playing though, but I can't remember any of the set.
Oh.
So there's a point where it just shut off and then I managed to come back around again.
Yeah.
It's things like heat, tiredness, set it off. Unfortunately, that's everything a musician has to do.
Yeah.
You're tired all the time. Stages are really hot. It happens, but as long as I sleep more than everybody else, I'm okay.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen again.
No, it's going to be hot today, which is a shame, and we're in a tent, so
Oh, throw ice
fingers
cubes.
crossed. Good, that's fine.
Yeah.
I won't take offence to people throwing ice cubes at me. Fuck off, come on.
I'll tell all my friends to do the same.
Cool, that'll be good.
It'll be really soft ice cubes as well.
Excellent. Nice one.
So you're called TesseracT because of this dimensional headphone, you say. Does that affect you, like your ethos when it comes to playing music? What else inspires you?
No. The only musical ethos we have is that it's got to be really easy to listen to. And I know that sounds a bit funny because most times when people listen to the music, they go, I have no idea what's going on. But at the same time, they can still do this.
Yeah.
They can still bounce. They can nod their head. That's what it's all about. It's about sharing. It's about bringing everybody into the same party.
Yeah.
Like there's some bands who are going to be playing the main stage today, and it will be all about what they're doing. It will all be about their ego, all about them getting up on stage with their guitar going in front of 50,000 people.
Yes.
Whereas I want to be able to just get on stage and dance with 50,000 people, share the euphoric moment of everybody going at the same time. It's almost like I want to be in the audience at the same time as playing.
I guess it is a bit like a TesseracT.
In some respects, yeah.
Indeed.
Very well done. Yeah, it's, yeah, it's about just everybody having a good time. It's weird. We try to remove the ego from the music, but not because we don't think that we're trying to be clever or smart. Because trust me, none of us are clever or smart.
I've heard some of your time signatures though.
Yeah, but speak to us about it because seriously, it's after 4. Like I'll go through and work it out. And go, it's a bit interesting, but we're not going to sit down and go right. This is an 11/4, for example, and then there's 5/8, 9/8, 7/8. I know there's one track where it does do that, bounces between those signatures in a loop, and that's a bit silly. You know?
Is it just natural?
Yeah, this is it. If the music moves that way.
Yeah.
So say for example Dream Theater, they will write something that is, say a 20-bar phrase and it has to fit this and fit that and fit this. So it's very mathematically induced, that music. Or the Sugar, they'll go, right, we're writing a 17-bar riff, and it doesn't matter if it's groovy or not.
Yeah.
I know they're really groovy, but they'll get to the end of the riff and it'll stop. What's going on? Maybe it sounds better with 13 bars, you know, maybe it's 13 and a half bars, but we're not trying to think about it. Like this is actually really useful. When you start writing this, you just got to have a pulse.
Yeah.
So don't think 1, 2, 3, 4, don't think about that at all, just think about it.
Ah, I see.
So that's where your beat comes from.
Yeah.
You know, there's 2 different time signatures going on there, but I don't care what they are, they're making me sort of go. That's good.
So when you record an album, you just jam, how do you go about writing?
We'll do a lot of the demoing. Akko, the guitarist, will start writing. He'll send these ideas around. We'll learn them all individually. Then we can talk about them and go, well, maybe it needs to do this a bit more and this a bit more. And once we've sort of got to the second stage of writing, then we'll all come together, see if it works as a band, because what you write on computer doesn't always work as a band. So we'll make sure that we'll then start to change it a little and then go back and re-record it, see how it goes with vocals as well, and then take it through another stage. Basically nothing is spontaneous, unfortunately, what we're doing. Which is good from one respect, because it means we're not going to go out there with something that we're not going to enjoy playing. But it's almost like it's gone through 2 or 3 productions before it gets to the final stage, which is why we did a CD and then a DVD, which is the DVD of what we've released on the album is actually, it's the same music, but it's almost, well it is a year later after we've been touring solidly, and the music evolves and changes. It's that much better for us. We add little bits here and there. It's a slow process. We can't go on stage and play a track that was wrote in 6 minutes. It's just not going to happen. It could take up to 6 years, where one of the tracks is nearly 6 years old. 6 years. The last track on the album is nearly 6 years old. And even that changed right as we were recording it, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, your last album was one. And you merged it with your last EP as well.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
The album actually did contain the EP originally, but we couldn't release the album when we wished to do it because it was so close to when we signed. So there'd be no promotion, there'd be no... The record label would just throw it out. To us, that would be so silly. So many bands signed and put the album out, and they were like, if we're going to sign with you, you need to do this promotion, you need to put us out on tour, you need to create a buzz before the album's released. That's exactly what happened as a result. There are so many bands that go out there and they make so many mistakes, whereas what rush have we got? We don't need to be a part of a scene. We're separate, so we're TesseracT, we're not part of new metal or thrash, or, you know, we don't have to be a part of that buzz, because although we do feel we're part of the new progressive, or gent as most people say, we were there 6 years ago, so we don't really give a fuck about that anymore. It's like, hang on, we were part of the project as a gent, so we've moved on.
A lot of bands get a bit annoyed that they're grouped into gent.
It's a shame.
It's a bit of it's a genre that there's a lot of imitation, and the bands that don't imitate don't like that.
We both like and dislike. It's a blessing and a curse, because it's a springboard. Like, say, new metal, stupid name. So's gent, stupid name. But new metal brought all these bands together, like Deftones, Primus even, Limp Bizkit, Korn. They were able to have something to promote themselves with, and then springboard away from that. Same happened with grunge. We've got even bands like Stained are still grunge, and they're 10 years too late. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all sort of the same thing. Metal, another stupid name. Metal is just as stupid as gent when you really just think about it.
And then Robin, the second wave.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, it's just a promotional tool. So long as the band's involved, move on and aren't always doing the same old shit. Then again, if you've got something good, why change it? So you've constantly got this balance going on. It's
it is
really
kind of
hard.
complicated. Like, some bands are stuck on the genre. Like, if Iron Maiden did a free jazz album, I don't know if people would
it's
be
weird though,
happy.
isn't it?
Like Morbid Angel's new album.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but then again, I think they're from a different breed, from a different time, where they became classic, and music didn't evolve so quickly. Like, it could take 10 years for a band to become what they wanted to be, whereas now you've got to constantly be moving. Like, people have got such short attention spans. I don't think any new band can sound the same for 10 years.
Where do you see your sound in 10 years? Can you see your sound in 10 years?
I don't want to design the future by any chance, but because we kind of want to just let things go where they go. But we're certainly losing, like, the new material for the next album. I know the first album's only 3 months old, but we've already got 20 songs for the next album, which are, they're still very embryonic, but they're kind of less genty. They're less like Sugar and more like Tool or Pink Floyd, but not in the sense that they've got a bit more rocky and a bit more bigger. And it's all about melodies and all about creating a space that just goes massive, rather than there's a lot of textures and a lot of layers. We still want to try and make that happen live though, so that's where we need to get the balance of massive production and exciting live stage shows. That's going to take a year or two to make that happen. Although we've got the songs, it's going to be 18 months before we release the album.
I'm waiting.
We're still touring for this one. Just looked at our touring schedule and I'm thinking, when do we record? Because we're touring up until like next October.
What places are you touring?
A lot of it I can't really talk about because it's not our main tour, but like, so we've got Australia coming up at the end of this month. In September we've got a UK headline tour, then we're going back to America, which will be announced very soon, and then possibly again America in the next year.
Can I ask who your headliners are?
Oh yeah, the UK tour's all advertising.
Oh, okay.
We've got, we're headlining with Chimp Spanner, who are a fantastic band.
Yes, yeah.
Then there's a band called Uneven Structure from France.
Are they on Basic Records?
Yeah.
Oh, because James was with us.
Yeah, so we're kind of buddying up Basic because they're great friends of ours.
And they're all like, you all fall into similar genres?
Yeah, for sure. We're all from that progressive gent scene, so it's going to be fun for all the fans, I really hope.
That was great talking to you.
Pleasure, thank you so much.
Thanks. See you later.
Excellent, nice to speak to you.
Yeah.